So if you want to create that financial freedom where money will work for you and you
Right.
follow your passions, because we keep working for 12 hours, 13 hours, right? So
Right.
we miss out on our passions. Once you have that sufficient assets which will take care of all your expenses till your life expectancy,
Right.
you can get that is called as the ultimate financial freedom. So money has to work for
Right.
you.
How does one build a secure and stable financial future? That's the million-dollar question. We have Yogesh Kshirsagar, Senior Director at Pentagraph, with us once again, this time to guide us exactly on this important subject. Don't forget to take a screenshot of the detailed steps and glossary that he has shared with us towards the end on this episode of Convolution. But Mujay, compared to, if you were to compare the banking and finance sector in India and banking and finance sector in Middle East, not just Dubai, the overall Middle East. So what are the changes that you have seen?
So there is a huge difference. मिडल ईस्टमध्ये बँकिंग खूप ॲडव्हान्स आहे टू बी ऑनेस्ट, किंवा वेल्थ मॅनेजमेंटमध्ये सुद्धा ग्लोबल प्लॅटफॉर्म्स खूप आहेत इन्व्हेस्टमेंटसाठी.
Right.
So typically what happens, Middle East NRIs will always come back for good to India, retirement.
Right.
So typically what happens whenever they come to India, either they'll buy physical assets like property, or they'll invest into a lot of insurance policies. So typically the awareness is an issue. Secondly, legacy planning, they don't do it.
Right.
म्हणजे if they have physical assets in India, basically legal will creation किंवा property management. So comprehensive financial planning they don't look at.
Right.
So they'll come for a month, they'll invest into some of the products, and then they'll go back. So people who are mis-selling, they'll get benefited out of it. आम्हाला जे रिअलाइज झालं, 90% of clients whom we met, त्यांचं 70-80% they were in physical assets.
Right.
And they were having 10 to 15 policies with them. So that's a big challenge.
Right.
तो client इथे आणणं, आणि आय फील इंडिया इज गोइंग टू बी द ग्रोथ स्टोरी फॉर नेक्स्ट 10 years.
Right.
तर त्याच्यासाठी वी वेर देअर, आणि द काइंड ऑफ रिस्पॉन्स वी गॉट इट वॉज अमेझिंग. सो तिथे अपॉर्च्युनिटीज आहेत, म्हणजे तिथे वेल्थ मॅनेजमेंट प्लॅटफॉर्म्स आर ऑन अ डिफरंट लेवल.
Right.
सो दे कॅन इन्व्हेस्ट इन टू ग्लोबल मार्केट्स, they can invest into global currencies. इंडियामध्ये टिपिकली आपण वी टॉक अबाउट when it comes to India, म्युच्युअल फंड्स किंवा ऑल असेट क्लास वी टॉक अबाउट.
Right.
सो इथले प्रॉडक्ट डिफरंट आहेत, बट इट्स ऑल अबाउट डायव्हर्सिफिकेशन.
Right.
So if NRI is staying in, let's say, Middle East, he has to create some kind of assets here in India. That's kind of a backup plan.
Right.
And that's why I said, if you compare US, Europe, NRIs,
Right.
they'll never come back for good to India. But typically, Middle East client will always come back to India. So it's better they create some kind of a retirement
Retirement
assets.
plan and assets.
So financial assets, I would say.
Okay. All right.
Most of them have physical assets, but if you talk about physical assets in India, rental yields here in India is hardly 1.5% to 2%.
Right.
So idea is that how they can maximize. Secondly, distribution of the assets when it comes to the legacy planning. Real estate transferring to legal heirs,
Right.
it's a long, lengthy process. A lot of documentation required. But if we talk about financial assets, it's just like, within a week's time it can be transferred.
Right.
So nobody understands the importance of whatever assets they have created, how they should get distributed to their rightful legal heirs.
Right.
And that's very important aspect. So we were there to talk about Indian economy.
Right.
Because I strongly believe the wealth creation will happen here in India only for next 10 years. Secondly, we spoke about a lot of products available for them here in India, across mutual funds, stocks, so they can invest freely. Right. And if it comes to NRE account, they can repatriate back as well.
Right.
Secondly, it's all about creating wealth here in India. And in case if they want to come back for retirement, so they have a kind of financial assets.
Right.
And understanding right asset allocation. As I said, because 90% of clients whom we met, they were like 70% into properties.
Wow.
So
which is a big headache, right? Also to maintain and
So that's a big challenge.
Yeah.
Maintenance is a secondary, I would say. But if you talk about asset, return on investments, so capital appreciation last 10-15 years we have seen in property markets.
Right.
But if you talk about now going forward, I think I don't see that kind of appreciation will happen. Secondly, if we talk about rental yields in India, So if you go to Pune, even if you go to Law College Road, if you go to Koregaon Park, the kind of rental yields what we'll get on the residential properties would not be more than 1.5 to 2%. Rather than
Okay.
even if they keep it in fixed deposits, they'll get higher
Yeah.
yields. So it's
Right.
all about understanding their asset allocation, obviously their risk appetite, investment horizon, and then creating a comprehensive financial plan. Because what happens in India is all about product selling.
Yeah.
Either
Yeah.
they'll go to the banks, and bank people will try to give the products which will properly beneficial for them.
Right.
So nobody look at the proactively benefits of the client, what clients require.
Right.
And it's all about product selling. What happens in
I
India.
think it's also because products are something which are very tangible,
Right.
having tangible benefits.
Correct.
And when we are talking about a comprehensive planning, it's more of a concept rather than a product. Which
Correct.
and it's kind of people are more worried about sharing their personal aspirations or maybe even their personal expenditures with somebody is kind of they feel very insecure with that.
True.
Maybe that's the reason.
See, what I have seen is that people don't talk about their financial matters even within the family. Writing down their assets. Secondly, it's all about understanding financial goals. You
Right.
know, Nobody writes their financial goals. It's all about ad hoc investment. What happens in India?
Right.
So, firstly, people will have to understand what are their financial goals.
Right.
So, because every individual will have two types of financial goals in his life. One
Right.
is mandatory financial goals, which talks about kids' education, higher education, marriage expenses,
Retirement plan.
retirement planning. If we talk about numbers, 60% of people in India they don't have a retirement plan.
Wow.
So that's a big challenge in terms of awareness. So they have to understand what are my mandatory financial goals, because nobody can delay those financial goals. Nobody can avoid those financial goals. It's going
Right.
to happen.
Right.
It has to be there. So planning is very critical when it comes to mandatory financial goals.
Right.
And the second is aspirational financial goals. So obviously, if I hold 1 BHK, I would want to buy a 2 BHK flat.
Right.
Or if you have a normal car, I want to buy a premium car.
Right.
So for every financial goal, you would need a certain amount,
Right.
and you have to look at that how much time you have for those financial goals, because inflation will always eat out 50% of your liquid assets.
Oh, okay.
So it has to be in line with inflation, it has to be in line with time horizon, it has
Right.
to be in line with the uh, risk appetite of the client. So
Right.
this is what I think. I strongly believe this awareness is missing in India. I meet a lot of clients and I ask them to write their 5 financial goals, and believe me, I think people are not even able to write their 5 financial goals. So that's a challenge. If you talk about numbers, there are I think 20-25 lakhs insurance agents in India, but financial planners are very minimal. So that's the I think area where we want to work. If you talk about even people who are into equity markets, that not even 4% of people are in equity markets. As I said, 60% of people they don't have a retirement plan in India.
Right. Right.
So I think if you talk about market for people like us, financial planners, wealth management, there is a huge opportunity. Because still that comprehensive financial planning aspect is missing. It's
Right.
all about product selling. People will come and sell insurance. People will come and sell mutual funds. It's
Right.
all about ad hoc investment.
I mean, there is a lot of lack of financial literacy
Right.
in India, and you also quoted the statistics earlier. The Indian investors. I mean, people who want to really become rich
Right.
and meet their financial goals. What's the first step that they should take?
So, firstly, they have to understand their financial goals. As I said, people will always in India they will do ad hoc investments. So, as an Indian, we have an inclination towards buying more physical assets.
Right.
It's all about creating, financial freedom. So, typically, we work for money, right?
Right.
So, at some point of time in our life, money has to work for us.
Right.
So build financial assets, that will help you to meet all your financial goal till your life expectancy.
Right.
One is your retirement, one is life expectancy.
Right.
And if you look at the inflation, which is growing at 6% compounding rate,
Right.
as I said, whatever you save, 50% will be eat out by inflation.
Right.
So if you want to create that financial freedom where money will work for you and you
Right.
follow your passions, because we keep working for 12 hours, 13 hours, right? So
Right.
we miss out on our passions,
Right.
whatever we have. So once you have that sufficient assets which will, take care of all your expenses till your life expectancy,
Right.
you can get, that is called as the ultimate financial freedom. So money has to work for
Right.
you.
Right.
And I have, rather, Pentagraph has so many success story that where we have helped a lot of people to get retired early, because we know retirement is like 60.
Yeah.
It is nowadays, it's like people are getting retired at 40, 45. If you have sufficient financial assets or wealth, you can easily, money will work for you and you follow your passion. So
Right.
if you want to have that financial freedom status, I would say create your comprehensive financial plan.
Right.
Understand requirement. Don't fall into product selling trap.
Yeah.
Don't fall into debt trap. Because people.
Yeah. These days,
The
yes.
second thing what has been
Yeah.
inculcated to us, that once you start working, the first thing is that take a loan and buy a house. So from initial stage itself, we start buying liabilities rather than savings.
You think buying a house is a liability?
So taking a loan, I mean, what I would always suggest that once you start working, the first 10 years you should save maximum, then create liabilities. Once you have sufficient kind of liquidity, the first thing is that always you need to have a contingency planning. Secondly, you need to have liquid assets, and then start buying into liabilities. So then
Right.
you buy a housing loan, because if you look at the housing loan structure as such, if you buy any housing loan for 15 years, and even if the value of loan is 30-40 lakh, the kind of interest what you pay is over a
Right.
period of 15 years, it's quite huge.
Right.
So first thing is that once you start earning, start investments.
Right.
And that's a problem, because whenever we meet a lot of IT guys, or whenever give a investment awareness programs, out of 100 people, not even 1 or 2 people say that I want to invest first. Everybody
Right.
says that I want to buy a car, I want to buy a house.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all about buying liability. So I suggest that you should always build wealth first, and financial assets would be the key to meet your retirement early. So
Right.
that's why savings is important
Right.
when you start working rather than creating
So
liabilities.
if I were to start working from now, I mean, if I am say 22, I've just graduated, and This is today is the first day of my job.
Right.
So what do you think? How should I break down my salary into expenses, savings, and then investment? Is there a formula for
Savings has
that?
to be minimum, at least I would say 40% you should save maximum. Expenses would be always 20%, right? And 30% it's all about creating contingency. So whenever
Okay.
the first thing he should create is financial plan. He need to understand that how much money he would need for his retirement. Obviously he's going to have a family down the line.
Right.
So how much money he would need for his kids' education. Marriage expenses, because when it comes to mandatory goal, there are education, higher education, and marriage expenses.
Right.
So everybody has to create the comprehensive financial plan, and I would always say that you visit any financial planners like us or Pentagraph or any wealth manager who can help you to create your financial plan, because when it comes to financial planning, it's all about planning,
Right.
execution. Because execution, why it is important, that you need to have all asset class in the portfolio. You need to buy gold, silver in
Right.
paper form. You need to have some kind of global portfolio,
Right.
like 10%, 20% invest into global portfolios like
Right.
US technology space, or if you talk about Southeast Asian companies. So create 10-20% kind of a global portfolio. So planning is important. Understand your horizon, investment horizon, risk appetite, and the financial goals. Then decide the products, because either people will get into that kind of endowment plans, unit link plans,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they don't invest into equities, because stock market or mutual funds, I think if you look at the past performance, I think market will always give a 12 to 15% if you stay long term. Power of compounding in equity will happen only down the line 10 years or
Right.
12 years.
Right.
But unfortunately in India, the people don't stay long term in equities. When it comes to equity, they will always think that it's short term. I'll make a lot of money by doing
So it's like a
trading.
gambling
It's
thing.
like a gambling.
Las Vegas.
So nobody understand the power of compounding in equity. Believe me, if you stay in equity, the kind of wealth, I'm not saying returns, the kind of wealth what people have already created, and the wealth you can create by just staying invested in equity for a longer period of time, it's outstanding. It's amazing. We have seen so many cases. So this is how one should,
Yeah. Yeah.
create financial plan and execute properly.
Right.
A review mechanism is also important. You need to review your portfolio because those days have gone where you just invest and stay invested. But you will
Right.
have to review. I'm not
Right.
saying churning, but you will have to at least review.
Yeah.
As per the market cycle, whether your portfolio is aligned. That
Right.
is also important. So once in a year, a review is absolutely fine. And the last part which I'll talk about financial planning is that create your succession plan or a legacy plan.
Legacy planning.
Because
That is a will.
distribution, yes. So
Okay.
people talk about wealth management, but people don't talk about wealth distribution piece. That is also very important. People don't understand the importance of creating legal will here in India. But that's required. That's very important to create that one document so that whatever assets you have created
Right.
by working hard for so many years,
Right.
that assets will be transferred to the rightful legal heirs, and that's very important aspect I have seen.
And also, there is a lot of belief that a will is a document that needs to be created after the age of 50
Correct.
or
I
after
mean,
60.
I mean that's a myth, I mean, people always in India believe that once I reach to the age of 60, then only I'll create my will. But I have my own will. We ensure that whatever clients we have, every client should have a legal will, because that is, we have seen so many cases where there have been disputes in terms of settlement of the assets. So if you have a legal will, nobody can nobody can actually claim that assets against your will. So having a will is very, very important. It is a very simple document nowadays in India. Any lawyer can help to create the legal will.
Right.
So if you have a will, I think it's always better. I mean, the assets will get transferred quite smoothly, I would say.
Right.
So that's important.
I think I may just quote, where there is will, there is way. So where there is will, there is wealth.
Correct.
The wealth will exist in your family across the generations. So when we talk about financial freedom, and when you ask your clients
Correct.
to set financial goals, and you're sitting in front of them, you know that the person is earning somewhere around $20,000 per month.
Right.
Have you any time come across some very unrealistic financial goals that that they have set, and then you had to actually let them know that set realistic goals without offending them?
So 60% people will always come with unrealistic kind of financial goals. They want to buy premium cars in 2-3 years. They want to buy a house in 2-3 years. Aspirations is fine, but when it comes to money, it has to be realistic. So as I said, being a financial planner, we have to act like a doctor or advocate.
Right.
So we have to, rather have to be realistic when we talk about financial goals. So we tell them, your salary and expenses, inflows and outflows, will never help you to create that kind of a short-term financial goal. So we give them a very realistic picture. If you want to buy a car, it will take 7 years, 8 years time, but we'll certainly achieve that.
Right.
See, because what happens is time, patience, commitment, and discipline. These are the 4 important factors when it comes to achieving your financial goals.
Right.
And that all 4 aspects are missing whenever we talk to the client. So first thing we have to start talking about having patience, having discipline. So once you want to buy something and down the line, let's say 7 years or 8 years, discipline is very important. So if you start investing and then start withdrawing, it doesn't make any sense. So, whenever we talk about creating those unrealistic goals into realistic kind of a picture, we talk about all these 4 parameters. Have patience. You need to have a time to achieve any financial goal. Obviously, you need some kind of a time. So, patience, time, commitment, and discipline. So if you all have all these 4 important aspects, because in India the behavioral aspect is important. I mean, understanding the mindset of a client, that's a big challenge in India. And so creating this impact, what you say is absolutely correct. I mean, 60-70% will always come with this unrealistic. I want to make 17%, 18% returns, 20% returns.
Have you had any such experience?
So many. So that's why I always tell customer, don't talk about returns. if you want to create a wealth with the right people, but wealth creation will happen in longer period of time. It cannot happen in 1 year, 2 year, 5 years.
Right.
You need to give me at least 15 years. And if you stay with me for 15 years, we can definitely help you to create a wealth.
Right.
So, absolutely. I mean, awareness is a big challenge in India.
Right.
But as I said, we have to be very blunt, like doctors and advocates.
Right.
So, whatever it is, or chartered accountants. So, we have to show them a realistic picture कि नहीं होगा.
Right.
नहीं होगा मतलब नहीं होगा. People will always say कि मैं trading में इतना बना दूँ. Nobody talks about how much they have lost in the market. Everybody
They only
will
see
talk
the
that, कि मैंने इतना बनाया उतना बनाया. So,
correct.
So problem is that if you give them a realistic pictures, I know some customers we might lose, but that's fine. We have to be very transparent when it comes to the financial planning, because we are managing somebody else's money.
Right.
So it has to be very, very transparent. You have to create that trust. That's very important. This is how it goes in India.
Great. So how do you go about selecting the right advisor?
So I'll put it in a very simple way. The financial planner who talks about your asset allocation, who talks about creation of wealth, who talks about planning, execution and distribution would be the good financial planners or a wealth manager. The financial planner who talks about products, he tries to sell you products. They are not, I'm just putting it in very simple words. They are not the correct financial planners, because product selling is for their benefits.
Right.
Creating financial plan is for customers' benefit. So when you choose a financial planner or wealth manager, always look at, because there will be a good financial managers with amazing oratory skills, but they would be a product selling guys.
Yeah.
So choose a guy who can stay with you till your life expectancy. That will be the correct financial planner. So that is the way to select a good financial planner or wealth manager who talks about your financial goals, asset allocation, financial plan, distribution of your assets. That is the correct financial planner. Right.
Okay, great. So thank you so much, Yogesh, for
Thanks, Manish. Thanks.
investing your time. So rather than saying spending, I'm saying investing time in educating and building awareness amongst our
Thanks
audience.
for giving
Thank
this
you.
opportunity. It was wonderful. Thank you.